and he talks about two different authors, two different books. One of them, his name is Piketty. Challenges a basic assumption of capitalism, that inequality is just an unfortunate byproduct of progress. Inequality, he argues, is a political choice based on a flawed ideology. The market will provide, and not the inevitable result of technology and globalization. And then Rutger Bregman, he chimes in, he said he explodes an even more deep-seated myth that humans are instinctively selfish, uncooperative, and aggressive, and without civilizing influence of governments and leaders. Order would soon break down and chaos reign. Then he goes on to say that over 200,000 years of human history shows that in reality we're hardwired to be kind, cooperative, and caring. He has to believe that. But we run our countries, our civic institutions, our companies, and our schools, often even our families, based on this deeply negative and incorrect assumption about human behavior. He shows that when this assumption changes, everything changes. Remember, it's all about a change. You're going to hear these things over and over and over. So the first one is the change of our mindset. The second pillar is to create new metrics. Measuring what matters will change everything. GDP measures the wrong things. And I may touch on some of this, but the reason they have to say this is that if we measure GDP, America's 1. China is 2. If you go into it, and I'll read in some of these things in a moment, but when you go and you look at where we're scored. America, at the highest of any of them, is 15th, and in some places we're as low as 105th. So you can tell that much of this is going to have to be geared toward America, and especially when it comes to the inequality or the equality of things where everyone should have everything in common. That's why they have to break down capitalism. And in that GDP, instead of using it, they use things like well-being metrics, genuine progress indicators, a happy planet index, and an initiative to use gross national happiness. What gets measured gets managed, is the old adage. The Great Reset needs to take that lesson firmly to its heart and to start the transformation by refocusing on what really matters. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm telling you, I do not believe that this is just an ideal that they're hoping. No, they're going to make these things, these things will be many of them. Number 3, design new incentives. You get what you pay for. This is where the digital currency comes in. It'll change the way that we do our money. I talked about blockchain and a little bit of that the last time, so I'm not going to spend much time there. And number 4 is build a genuine connection. Distance is the danger. Let me read from that author again. Shows the heartbreaking consequence of the distance between leaders and the lives of the rest of us, and how that is the biggest problem of all. He finishes his book with a look at the 1914 Christmas Day truce at the start of the First World War. Over 100,000 troops laid down their arms on the front line to play football, share stories, photos, food, and drinks. But it wasn't just a Christmas Day thing. In some places, this lasted a number of weeks, with many servicemen remembering it as a highlight of their lives. It could have easily escalated into full-scale peace, as both sides were reluctant to restart. Only the dogged perseverance of generals far away used propaganda to stir hate and instill obedience to orders to court-martial anyone for friendly gestures towards the enemy managed to kickstart the war again. These leaders distanced themselves from the people, which was a critical factor. So again, let me remind you, one reason they want to do that is because the government needs to be involved in your life. We don't need to be distant from it.
Can I ask a question? I have complete ignorance of all of this. When you're talking about a reset, you're talking about a national reset, a global reset?
World, this is a global, this is a world reset.
Okay, then you're using the pronoun they. Who are they?
The World Economic Forum.
Who's behind all this?
Charles, Klaus Schwab is the founder. And then the UN,
More than just him.
well, yeah, the UN's behind it, with the UN 30 agenda. And not only that, but you got the Bushes behind it. George, both the Bushes. You got the Clintons behind it. You've got George Soros behind it. You've got Henry Kissinger behind it. You've got Joe Biden behind it. Kamala Harris. All of these leaders are behind this initiative. There was only one leader that I knew of that wasn't behind all this, and I don't know if he was completely upfront with us, and that would have been Donald Trump. He was a nationalist. See, nationalism has to go. This is a global thing, but the reason I know it's going to happen because the Bible says it is. This isn't an opinion, but now we can see for the first time in our history how the book of Revelation can be now fulfilled. Because there's going to have to be a global governance over the people in order for you to be able to fulfill. In order for a man or a system that can dictate any money or any type of transaction, then there has to be a system set up for anybody to have that kind of power and that kind of influence. There has to be. We will never fulfill the book of Revelation if something doesn't change in the world. There has to be a global move, a new world order. Long before you ever heard a new world order on the media, you heard it in the church many years ago. You heard it in the church many years ago, because the church knew many years ago that we were going to have to go to a one world system under a one world leader. And whether it's a person or a system, but at that system somebody will be at the head of it. And only time will tell. Now, in the World Economic Forum, and by the way, there's many people, and there's many people involved in this World Economic Forum. All you have to do is get on there and read, because every one of these will tell you what committee has taken this in and how many and the people that are involved. But this is what they have to say about the skill set that you will need to get hired in 2021. And the first one on the list is blockchain. That is the first one on their list, because they understand how important the money system is going to have to be there. And I may talk a little bit more about blockchain in a few moments, but I've said a lot about blockchain, especially our last meeting. If I look at global governance, and it's that global governance is a means to manage issues that cut across national borders. Whether it is a pandemic, a financial crisis, climate change, or a geo-economic dispute, though traditionally centered on diplomacy and international organizations, a wide variety of public and private actors now engage in cross-border governance. The work itself has expanded well beyond treaty making to include formal and informal monitoring. So just fill with your data. Standard setting, enforcement, and financing. Effective governance is essential to secure peaceful, healthy, and prosperous societies, particularly now amid COVID-19 that has worsened ecological crisis, mounting geopolitical tension, and growing nationalist backlash against globalization. Under this, the subtopics under which you come into anti-globalism, weaponizing interdependence, transitional actors, institutional complexity, and power shifts and conflicts. And under those, then it has categories under those again and again. This is what the powers that be are setting up for us. And this is going to go hand in hand with the UN 30 agenda. And you realize this wasn't drafted since COVID-19. This has been drafted for a while. This COVID-19 is now why you're hearing why now other countries are talking about the reset is going to happen in their country. But this will not stop. This started with Common Core. Common Core is part of it too. Because Common Core has started going all over the world, not just in America. I know a few years ago it reached out to India. Then also in this is one they call 3D printing. Not what you think it is. It's not talking about a printer over here that's printing a document. This is talking about taking stem cells and printing out livers, hearts, different things of this nature. No, 3D printing has already revolutionized the way that parts are designed and manufactured. Other applications of the technology, bioprinting human organs, printing affordable housing, on-demand production of potential future habitats on the Moon and Mars, were until only recently the shut-off of science fiction. Now, breakthroughs are being achieved in all these areas, and 3D printing is showing promise as a means to solve many of mankind's most pressing issues. And if I go into, let's see, if I go into the bioprinting, 3D printing means that the cost of making something has been liberated from a need to make a lot of it. Traditionally, manufacturers have been bound by the principle that the more they produce, the more costs decline. 3D printing can alter this dynamic. For, by example, reducing or even eliminating the need for tooling, the process of developing series of molds and dies needs for production. For example, it requires a series of precision machined molds in which to inject heated metal or other material. 3D printing can therefore drastically decrease the time needed to bring a new product to make the market, slash the cost, and lead to a situation where the cost per produced part is not related to the potentially high overall cost of what you were going to do. And that's not really what I wanted, but if I can get that to go. Bioprinting, here we go. People die every day waiting for donated organs, and 3D printing could provide a solution. While 3D printing promises to revolutionize the manufacturing industry, it could also have a similar impact on public health. For example, 34,770 organ transplants were performed in the U.S. in 2017, setting a 5th consecutive record yearly high according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. However, there were also more than 114,000 people on the U.S. waiting list for a transplant as of early 2018. and 20 people die in the country every day as they wait. They're going to eliminate that, is what they're saying.
If they want to depopulate, why in the world would they go to all that trouble?
They can say,
well, Here's the deal though. You're going to read about aging and how they want to take care of those people. You've got to understand what they're talking about, taking care of the people that's here, not the people that's going to die off. See, I will tell you, if you read Plato's Republic, and that book, and when you have Socrates, and Socrates he's arguing, not arguing, but he's debating different of these philosophers. And if you read the book, then you find out what they're doing in this book is they're building a city. And this city, they're telling you what kind of people are invited to come and live in their city. See, they're choosing who can live in their city and who cannot. And I will tell you, most people that begin to look at this, they feel that the end game in the world is city-state. Get everybody moved. It is expand your city borders. And then when you bring in things like this along with the UN agenda, now you're dictating who you want to live in this country. Now, I'll be honest with you, I can never see people like Bill Gates who thinks that we should have somewhere between 300 and 500 million people on Earth. That's just not going to happen. I don't even find in the Bible where we're going to see that mass of death taking place even in the last day. You know, you might be able to read where you can find maybe a couple billion. I can even imagine a couple billion people die over a period of a short span of time. But to get what Bill Gates and some of them are wanting, you would have to kill off 7 billion people. And that number would have to keep rising every day. But those people that are going to be alive are going to be the very ones that are going to, in their opinion, that will be able to benefit from this great reset. Because remember, they're wanting to change they're wanting to change everything that we see happening today in our life. Anything happening in our life, they want to change it. Get out of the fossil fuel. They even have, I even have a category in here for batteries. I mean, I have never seen such detailed reports of their plans. And if I could read to you about equality, and I wished I'd had time to, I could have shown these little clips of videos with the graphics of where I'm reading from. But when you talk about inequality, listen, unchecked capitalism. Now, how many people really realize that most of the world hates America? And one reason why they hate America, because of our form of government, and we have a small percentage of the population and own the large percentage of the wealth. This is the main reason other people hate America. And America, we're not ignorant. We don't call ourselves exceptional. That's what everybody else said. America, they're exceptional people. We put something in place that no other country has ever done. No other has been able to even come close. So even when you had the Pope in 2015, and he's going all over America, and a lot of the messages he sent is, as Americans, you are to be willing to give up some of your wealth and give up some of your freedom for the betterment of the world. So we can have a more equal playing field across the world. And again, I'm not saying here, I'm not going to sit here and cast stones at any group or any organization, but I will say this: the Pope is a globalist, and the Pope is all about this climate change, this green movement, and the UN 30 agenda. He was the one that made, why don't you think he come to America and spent all that time going all over America? And then his last visit was at the UN, and he unveiled the UN 30 agenda. Folks, it's these people in these places of power that can make this happen. We just got to be, but let me go on. Unchecked capitalism, dizzying technological change, grossly disproportionate executive pay, insensitive financial globalization have all been blamed for rising levels of inequality. Because you have a good retirement, you're the reason things are not, are they're not equal. They want to change that. One key underlying factor has been the increased prevalence since the 70s of, can you read that word, and the financialization of everything, resulting in a democratization of economic policy making. Yet inequality is not solely about income. Inequalities in terms of health, age, disability, gender, technology access, infrastructure, and geographical location have all been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Mitigating inequality will now demand a mix of bottom-up and top-down changes that recognize the social and economic systems aggravating inequality are a matter of choice. They're very clear on these, and I could go through in this livelihoods and infrastructure, global trends in equality, power, influence, and voice, institutions and equality, technology and equality, the biosphere and inequality, belonging, identity, and culture. These are just subtopics under inequality. I know you can't see it, I'm going to raise it up, but if you see this right here, this in the middle is inequality. All of these things around it is subparts of inequality. I'll be quite honest with you, pretty impressed of the detail that they put into this. Let's talk about religion. Religious belief can inspire both action for justice and problematic social division. Through the interpretation of their texts and traditions, religious actors have extensive resources that can help promote social activism on issues ranging from environmental stewardship to social justice. I'm going to read, I hope I can find this one. In just a moment. Let me start right here. Religion factors into social movements in complex ways. In the U.S., for example, African American churches once served as the heart of the civil rights movements, while today they are relatively less prominent in the Black Lives Matter movement, which works to intervene in violence inflicted on black communities. More troubling are some grassroots political movements, particularly in the Western countries, that promote the idea of national identity. That's what we promote, guys. Based on being white, Christian, and heterosexual. Such social political movements which may have religious connection, often undermine unified domestic and global action addressing shared threats and impair efforts to promote racial justice and gender parity. So let me tell you what that means in short. Christianity will have to go. They'll have to put a stop to Christianity. They will not put up with me standing preaching a sermon, not about a person, but about an ideology like homosexuality. That's going to be considered hate, a race, and that's going to be considered detrimental to the global movement. And all you have to do is turn the radio on. Ted Cruz is uncovering some things right now. If anybody's listening, that now it's come out that the Biden administration, instead of over here monitoring and shutting you off of these Facebook and Google and YouTube, no, they've come to Zuckerberg and different ones and said, you need to do this. So therefore, now this private industry now has become a public forum also, which definitely will not work in our republic that we have, because now they're using these big platforms to take away our First Amendment right and start. That's why so many people get shut off of Facebook and shut down on YouTube. And folks, if you're not keeping up with what's going on, we have basically lost our First Amendment right in this nation. If you don't believe me, you get on there. If we started getting a lot of reviews on my sermons, YouTube would shut me down in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. They're already doing. I followed this guy, Ice Age Farmer, and he's gotten big enough now. Now he has to be careful of the words that he used. I watched this guy called Marfugal. He don't even give you his name. And when he begins to talk about things, he will not say COVID. He does not say the vaccine. He says the V, the C. When it comes to Trump, he says T-man. He has to disguise everything he's saying in order to stay on YouTube, to keep him getting shut down. See, this is where we're at. So if we don't think that they're going to shut the churches down, we've lost our mind. That's going to happen. You just rest assured, because they have their role for religion. Circular economy. Like I said, I'm just giving you stuff, what they've got designed. Linear, take, make, waste economics have had an irreversible impact on people and environment. The circular economy model represents a means to rethink the way we design, make, and use products and materials. It involves viewing waste as a design flaw, keeping products in use for longer, that uses things rather than uses us, and regenerating natural systems by emulating the natural concept that everything is food for something else. Ultimately, the circular economy is about addressing the root cause of economic, social, and environmental challenges. And under that one, and we'll talk in a few moments a little bit about food, but under that one is a regenerative food system.
Well, they're already using baby parts for various things, so you never know when they're going to decide to start making some kind of food source out of that.
Well, that's very true, but not only that. See, we've seen Michelle Obama introduce us to this. I remember how many of us got so ticket Brandon. Everybody knows Brandon Bullock, big old Brandon. When Obama came into office, well, and he was going to York High School. Well, when he went through the lunch line, they said, whoa, Brandon, wait just a minute. And reached over and took 3 French fries out of his plate and said, you got too many French fries. Do you know why? Because they were dictating what you were allowed to eat, what you were not. You see it in New York. Man, you could go up there and buy a 32-ounce smoothie or one of these drinks that's got like a 500,000 calories and 700 fat grams, because that's just unhealthy for you. When did the government get involved in my health? It's not a good thing, but I'm telling you, we've been so indoctrinated sometimes we don't see this. Back when Bill Clinton was president and the Christian world was applauding because he stood up and defined what marriage was. One man and one woman. And the Christian world clapped. My brother-in-law told me that's the worst mistake they ever made. Just like today, we clap when Florida says they will pray in school. Folks, anytime you allow the government to make that choice for you, that means they can change it. Because what happens? Then we have DOMA come in under the Obama administration. What they do? Because the presidents had already been set, now they come and said, no, it's no longer one man and one woman. Now, even when it comes to something we think is a good idea, we do not need. See, when the Danbury Baptist and Thomas Jefferson were having that conversation back and forth where we hear separation of church and state, when he told them that the First Amendment, what it means is that the state cannot infringe upon the church. See, we can pray at school because we choose to pray at school, not because the government's given us the right to pray. And Thomas Jefferson was telling the Danbury Baptists, no, we're not. The government's not giving you the right. This is the right of your conscience. That the state will not infringe. We've already had that message where the state infringes. No, but the church can come over here and relate back to the state. See, so that means we can go and pray wherever we want to pray. On any public place. We're just allowed to do it.
Yeah, getting back to the health portion of it, Medicare is already doing that. They're paying you incentives to have physicals every year, and they're asking you information about your health. They send out mailers and ask you to write down what your health status is and what you're doing about your health. So they're collecting data already on
Yeah,
this.
and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And I didn't even know that. But you imagine 50 or 60 years ago, we would run them out of our home if they come and ask us for that kind of information. I can imagine when they first started doing the census, most people probably wouldn't even hardly allow them in your house because we didn't want them to get into our business. Now, everyone is calling where we are now and the fourth industrial revolution. So let me just the first industrial revolution, we see the steam engine. Well, I've got a better one there, so we'll get it now. Apparently a lot of these that I saw. But anyway, let me see if I can get this one down. I wanted to go over the three because this is the fourth one, and it brings in the cyber, the last one, bringing in and a lot of the internet, and then of course I think the second one brought in electricity, but we're now at the fourth industrial revolution, which represents a fundamental change, there's that word again, in the way that we live and work. Is a new chapter in human development enabled by advances that are commensurate, and I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, with those of the first, second, and third industrial revolutions, merging the physical, digital, and biological worlds and fusing technologies in ways that create both promise and peril. The speed, breadth, and depth of this revolution has forced us to rethink how countries should develop, how organizations create value, and how people from all walks of life can benefit from innovation. Now, as the world grapples with COVID-19, there is an opportunity to further embrace this revolution in ways that creates a more inclusive, human-centered global economy. It's, here's one about the data of science, and this basically talks about the era of data is upon us, is proliferating at an unprecedented pace, reflecting every aspect of our lives and circulating from satellites in space through the phones in our pockets. By the way, I guess you heard about Jeff Bezos. He flew up in space, about 3 or 4 people. Now you used to, our government would have stopped Jeff Bezos. They would have never agreed to allow him, because he put so many small businesses out of business. He's taken over the retail, and now I think he owns a Whole Foods. He owns the media, Washington Post, and now he's trying to acquire MGM. And now space. See, used to our government, these companies would have to get permission before they could acquire things like that. But because you get the monopoly, but we see what's going on with him there. Reflecting every aspect of life and circulating from satellites in space through the phones in our pockets, the data revolution creates endless opportunities to confront the grand challenges of the 21st century. Yet, as the scale and scope of data grow, so must our ability to analyze it. Drawing genuine insights from data requires training in statistics and computer science, and subject to area knowledge. Putting insights into action requires a careful understanding of the potential ethical consequences for both individuals and entire societies. We are moving quickly I'm trying to look for, into every area. This one is the digital economy and the new value creation. The disruption caused by the fourth industrial revolution has been accelerated by COVID-19 and increased our need for agility, adaptability, and positive transformation. As the global economy rapidly digitalizes, an estimated 70% of new value created over the next decade will be based on digitally embedded platform business models. Folks, I've been telling you for a few years that we are headed to some type of digital currency, whether it's crypto, whether it's a digital dollar, whether it's a Fed coin, and the technology behind it will be blockchain. Blockchain will be the technology, because blockchain, it is transparent. If I could send you Bitcoin or any type of crypto, and you can get right on the block and see that transaction. Anybody can see it. It's all transparent. We're headed to this type of monetary system, whether everybody's going to be under the same heading of the same type of money. but we see the IMF, China, Russia, America's gonna have to get on board. Everyone is moving to this digital. And now, instead of the digital dollar, now they're looking more at a Fed coin. But whatever the case may be, but I'm gonna tell you something. We get a little bit scared about that. We're basically already there. We're basically there. I mean, you've got credit cards, you've got debit cards, you get online and buy things. Very seldom are you paying anything with cash anymore. For the most part, most Americans don't even have cash anymore. But here's the deal: you go to pay your credit card bill off, and we know it. You go to pay it. You get on your credit card company, you pay your bill. It's about 3 or 4 days before it ever shows up in your bank that you need to pay it. The thing about it with this, because of blockchain and some of these other technology that's come from some of these other crypto tokens, now you get on there. If I wanted to pay you some money, it's 15 minutes. You got it, and it's already out of my bank. It is tremendously much faster than the system we have today. I live in that world every day. So we see the digital economy and new value. Well, I'm hoping that I'm not lost some of this. Here's the biotechnology. Medical biotechnology is personalizing medicine by keying on individual biology. Industrial biotechnology is being used to develop more eco-friendly ways of building things. Agriculture biotechnology can help feed an expanding global population, and synthetic biology is helping to sustainably produce essential chemicals and materials. And I'm going to tell you, when you start reading the UN agendas, you hear that word sustainability all through it. All through it. However, while recent biotechnology-related advances have opened up incredible new possibilities, they have also created significant ethical issues as society grapples with concepts like gene-edited babies. And under it is environmental biotechnology, agriculture, industrial, bio-big data, and machine learning, synthetic. Let's see, AI is another different one we probably need to touch yet tonight, and then the medical. But we see all of these. I'm going to go over here and biodiversity. Nearly 1 million plant and animal species are now at risk of extinction due to human activity and related climate change, pollution, deforestation, overfishing, and poaching, according to a report published in 2019. It is estimated that there could be as many as 18 million in total. Biodiversity provides us with water, oxygen, fertile soils, climate control, medicine, and food. In addition to recreation and spiritual inspiration, while the traditional bioeconomy relies on crops, animals, and microorganisms, the unsustainable use of these resources has now pushed nature to its limits. I'm telling you, they're going to push it where you're no longer going to be able to kill a cow for meat. And we already see the Bill Gates and the different ones that's already doing this, coming up with this meat substitute. Whether it's a synthetic meat or they're over here growing protein farms through worms and bugs is how we get our protein. See, all of this is already on the horizon. I'm going to go over one more and then I'm going to quit. but I want to find it. If I didn't lose it, I really have way too many on here. Yeah, apparently I've lost. I wanted to go over the food with you. They really have a plan for our food. Folks, I'm here to tell you, and I know some of you are going to think I've lost my mind, but that's all right. The technology is already here. Maybe not every country has it, but the technology is already here where they can cause a lot of droughts, storms, and we see all these droughts happening. And in China, they're in one day they're getting enough rain for a month. Massive floods, and now I just read a report on wheat today. Russia is the top producer of wheat, then America is second, and we've got hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of acres that are laying fallow because of the drought in the west and in the northwest.
It's sold to the people that choose not to farm.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I've been privy to some information from people that I just trust. Even in a small place like Fentress County, that they by no means have a large farm at all. And last year the government paid them $165,000 not to grow a gap, not to raise a gap. You have to ask yourself, why is this going on? I mean, we can either say, you know, there's just no way this is going to happen. Sometimes just because we don't understand it, we don't think that these things are going to happen. Well, I'm going to tell you, we better get to a place where we're not relying upon the government for everything that we need. It would be very detrimental to us because if we have to rely on the government, if they tell you that you have to do this in order to have this, then we're going to comply if we're not very careful. And as a Christian, we are called to hold a standard. And today we're not being pushed, but I'm telling you, every day is one day closer where we're going to be pushed to the point where we're going to have to say no to government if we're going to say yes to God. Because our government is not the government that this nation's had before. It's not the same, and all we have to do is just start reading the news. These things, if I could go back to 2015 in November, I could show you my sermon. And even though I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew something was going to happen simply because I'm a student of this UN 30 agenda. After they handed this agenda out, and I read that agenda, and I was in a little group that we kind of broke that agenda down and looked at the inner workings, it became very clear that in order for them to have these things implemented by 2030, then no later in 2020, there had to be some type of world event happen to start ushering us in to line up for that 2030 agenda. And I preached that. I said that from the pulpit. There'll have to be something huge happening by 2020. Now, I didn't see a pandemic coming. I didn't see anything like that, but we know what this has done to us. And lo and behold, here we are. And every day, more and more things are being placed. We now have a government that is full-blown globalist, without a doubt. I don't know, other than a few of the senators, just a very few of them up there, and I mean on both sides of the aisle, only a few up there probably are not globalists. This is a global agenda. We're going to go global. At some point in time, our U.S. Constitution will be under UN regulations. It has to be this way for the Bible to be fulfilled. We may not be here. The church may be raptured away. But that doesn't mean that we can at least be sharing with some people the things that we're staring us right in the face. See, the Lord calls us to be watching. And He says, when you see this danger, you are to herald out the danger that's coming. I'm quite confident that when Jeremiah was telling them that they're getting ready to go into captivity, I'm quite confident the majority of the people didn't believe it. But it doesn't matter if we believe it or not, these things are going to have to happen in order for the second coming of Christ. There has to be a 7-year tribulation. There has to be this man of perdition. And that means the world has to be ready to support his agenda. And that's where we're headed.